Welcome back everyone. Today we're going to talk about a country that always comes up in conversations about food, history and culture. It's Italy. It doesn't get talked about as much as a scary place though. With this video I aim to change your view of Italy. You're going to see a dark side to it today and I hope you're ready for the stories to come. I know I am. I'm Danny Burke and this is the top 10 scary Italian urban legends. Starting off at number 10 now, we have the house that kills. Along the Venice canals there are expensive houses that are snapped up whenever they go on the market, all except for one. Its name is Dario, sometimes called the house that kills. It was built in the late 15th century for Giovanni Dario, secretary of the Venetian Republic Senate. When he died, the house was inherited by his daughter and her husband. After a while, the husband lost all of his possessions and was stabbed to death, while the daughter killed herself by drowning in the canal. They had a little boy who ended up being killed by assassins. The Venetians were shocked by the three violent deaths and started to think the house was cursed as it was built on an ancient cemetery. Others said it might be the inscription on the floor which read Giovanni Dario in honor of the city genius. In Italian, that's actually an anagram of who will live in this house will be ruined. In the 19th century, a descendant of the family sold it to a rich diamond merchant who quickly lost all of his wealth and died shortly after. The next owner died mysteriously in the house with his lover, perhaps in a murder-suicide case. Death seemed to follow every owner thereafter. There was a suicide, then a car crash, then a murder, another suicide, another car crash, and then a suicide again, and then a heart attack. After all of that, it's no surprise that locals are now convinced that the Casa Dario is a cursed house. Even those who don't believe in curses have stayed well clear of the house that kills. Here's a little modern one for you guys now at number 9 with water blades. A number of years ago in northern Italy, a panic began to spread about a man known only as Water Blades. He was said to be an evil genius psychopath who would visit water parks attended by children. When nobody was looking, he would install blades in the water slides on the park. On some of them he would leave tiny small blades that would just cut the people who rode them, but that was just a test. He would then build up to bigger and bigger blades, putting them in places to cause maximum damage to the riders. Legend says that people were left horribly disfigured for life after slashing themselves on these rides. According to the story, the knives were always found but never Water Blades himself. Some people are glad that this is now a thing of the past, but for others the damage is already done. People have been scarred for life and now everyone kind of lives in fear of when Water Blades will return to leave a knife on a whole new ride for people who never saw it coming. Moving on to number 8 now, we have the Casa dell'Anime. This house in Voltri, Genoa has a reputation as one of the most haunted houses in Italy. Many years ago it was run as an inn by a family who all suffered from severe mental disorders. Legend says they would invite passing guests to stay for the night, sometimes even for free. This was all just a tactic though to get them inside. Once they were asleep in their beds, the family would murder them, take their money and then throw their bodies into a mass grave. They say the souls of the victim are now bound to the house and roam around it during the night making unearthly noises. For many years after this family's time there, the house lied empty. No doubt the stories had something to do with it. A new family finally moved in after the Second World War and they witnessed a very creepy event. They said they always saw a young girl walking around the house dressed all in white, asking if anyone had seen her love. Locals believe the girl was engaged to one of the victims and after he never returned to her, she went to look for him. Now she is doomed to wander around that house looking for her lost love forever. Moving on to number 7 now, we have the Museum of Purgatory in Rome. In a small church in Rome lies a single room known as the Museum of Souls. For those of you who don't know, Catholics believe purgatory is the place between heaven and hell where souls are trapped before they can advance to heaven. The chapel is known as a place where people will go and pray for their loved ones to advance to a happy afterlife. However, things have got creepy over the years with recorded instances of trapped souls who have appeared to visitors and personally asked them for help. At first it was just eyewitness accounts, but then physical things started happening. There have been photos showing apparitions behind, and perhaps most creepy of all, handprints burned onto the pages of prayer books. If you were trying to get to heaven and avoid hell, perhaps you'd make yourself known just as much. At number 6 now guys, we have the Witches of Monte Matanna. We're heading to Tuscany for this story and it may either repel or attract you depending on what kind of person you are. This is a mountain in the Italian Alps which offers hiking by day and witch hunting by night. For centuries, local legends say the area was a retreat for witches to perform their human sacrifices and occult rituals. They say the only reason anyone even knew that they were there was because shepherds would sometimes see flames and bright streaks of fire upon the mountainside. Today you can see a strange shaped rock that they are thought to have used as a table, not in the table sense that you or I know, more of a sacrificial table. Why did the witches return to this location? Well, again, local legend says they hid all of their wealth and treasure there before moving on to another life. Now, people go searching for the witches' treasure. However, there is a problem for any witch/treasure hunters out there. It's guarded by something, apparently. A ghostly spectre holding a huge scythe, exactly like the Grim Reaper. If you find the treasure and manage to avoid getting scythed by a witch's ghost, I guess it's all yours. Moving on to number 5 now, we have Poveglia Island. Just off the coast of Venice, you can find Poveglia Island, a place that many locals will never go near. Back in 1348, it was used as a quarantine colony for people who were caught the plague, known as the Black Death. People were sent there to die, with no hopes of being cured. Some believe that so many people were burned and buried there that the soil on the island is now made up of about 50% human ashes. By the 1800s, the island was being used as a mental asylum where people were locked up, rarely helped, and often died in anguish. They say that the psychiatrist who ran the mental hospital was a butcher and torturer who tormented the patients for many years. Eventually, he went mad from all the guilt and threw himself from the island's bell tower. He survived the fall, but his body lay broken on the rocks. That's when witnesses say he was strangled to death by a ghostly mist that emerged from the ground. Some say this was the island itself, now intertwined with the dark energy of death and taking its revenge. It's no surprise that boats stay clear of Poveglia Island and visitors are few and far between. Moving on to number 4 now, we have Brolio Castle. In Brolio, there is a castle that has belonged to the Ricasoli family since 1141. It was owned by Bettino Ricasoli until 1880 when he died of a heart attack in the castle. His body was not buried right away though, but kept near the altar of the crypt in the family chapel. During that time, rumours began to circulate about strange apparitions around the castle. People caught glimpses of spirits walking about the castle as if they were still alive. None of this had happened before Bettino had died. The wind began to blow harder than it ever did for that time of year, opening and slamming windows violently. A swarm of moths invaded the chapel, forcing many of the mourners to flee. However, this was all building up to one single moment. When they tried to lift the coffin up again, it was too heavy. More people came, and more, but it just wouldn't budge an inch. It was like the whole thing was full of rocks. Suspecting demonic forces at hand, they fetched the local priest. He arrived and placed his hand on the coffin, muttering words in Latin for a while. When he had finished, to everyone's amazement, the coffin was suddenly light again. The priest claimed that all of the damned souls in the area had seen the coffin as a safe place to hide and had come from miles around to do so. He had dispelled them from the coffin but unleashed them on Brolio Castle. In the years since then, the souls are said to still wander the grounds there, ready to torment any visitors who disturb them. Next up at number 3 now, we have the Capuchin catacombs. In this place lie the skeletons or preserved bodies of as many as 8,000 people hanging from the walls or in glass caskets for the world to see. It was started by monks who would preserve their own so that they could pray with them, not just for them. Then locals began to pay the monks for their family members to also be interned in the catacombs so that they too could visit and pray with them. Monks, priests, teachers, professionals, men, women and children are all placed in different categories, hung up on niches or shelves. The Capuchin catacombs stopped taking bodies in 1920. One of the final interments was that of 2-year-old Rosalia Lombardo. She died of pneumonia. An embalmer used a secret technique to preserve her body over the past 100 years. Visitors are amazed to see just how lifelike she looks after all this time. Sometimes though, she is said to have actually opened her eyes. Scientists say this is just a trick of the light, but those who have seen it would argue otherwise. They believe that the energy of the catacombs have a dark power over the bodies that lie there. For a price, you can actually spend the night locked in the catacombs. I don't know what kind of person would want to do that though, and I don't know what they would do if one of the bodies slowly opened their eyes. Next up at number 2 now, we have Villa Magnoni. This is an ominous looking house located in the otherwise picturesque Italian countryside near the city of Kona. These days the house is almost entirely boarded up, which has led many people to believe the whole place is haunted. One of the only stories that has survived over the years comes from the 1980s. Back then then, a group of friends reportedly visited the house and heard children singing in the garden. Great, they thought, I guess the place isn't haunted after all. When they went round to the garden though, the laughing stopped as soon as they turned the corner. There was nobody there. Then they looked up to the house and scanned the windows. They were all either empty or boarded up, except for one of them at the very top. In that window they saw a woman. She was wearing all white, her eyes wide open, and she was screaming at them. She screamed so loud they could actually hear what she was saying. She was telling them to leave. Leave now. The friends ran in fear and then sped away in their car. They actually crashed on the way home, killing 3 out of 4 of them. Months later, the survivor returned to the house to investigate. He searched inside the house and went up to the window where they saw the woman originally. He froze on the spot. The room from which she appeared had no floor. And finally, number 1 now, we have the ghost of Palazzo Vecchio. In the old city of Florence lies this luxury villa. There once lived a man there called Baldaccio. He was a medieval nobleman and brave warrior who was ultimately betrayed, wrongly accused of treason, and killed inside the palace in 1441. He was stabbed and thrown out of a window, probably on the orders of a rival nobleman. Now his spirit remains in the palace, filled with rage at the people who killed him. In the centuries since then, locals have learnt that there's a set of rules to not anger the ghost of Baldaccio. After dark, you should not scream his name, you should not name him without a reason, and you must always speak with respect in a low, hushed tone. The most famous sighting of Baldaccio happened in 2001 when he appeared in the background of a wedding picture taken. Experts said the photo had not been tampered with, only adding to the legend of the angry ghost. Okay, that is Italy ticked off the list. I always love talking about Italian food and culture, so it's interesting to have explored the more creepy side that they often don't tell you about. Where should we go to next with this series? The choice is yours. I am listening. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm Danny Burke, and I will see you all in the next video.